Brexit. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Whether it's shutting down historic 200-year-old lace companies or just causing so much problems at the border trying to get your goods over to Europe that companies are just giving up outright, causing massive problems with bands wanting to tour, not only just in Europe, but bands wanting to come and do tours here in the UK, as we've seen very recently. The list just goes on and on and on and on. And this is because we apparently wanted a hard Brexit. But that was not what Leavers said they were offering. Remember, Daniel Hannan infamously said only a fool would leave the single market and customs union, and that was being asked by someone who was a Remainer on the Remain side, saying, no, look, if you vote for leave, it's a vote to leave the single market and customs union. That is what they want, which Daniel Hannan, the brain of Brexit, as he was sold as, turned around and said, no, a vote for leave, it doesn't mean leaving the single market and customs union. Only a fool would do that, he said. And yet, here we are in this hard Brexit, which no one was really given a choice if they wanted this type of hard Brexit, because that was the Leave plan all along. We'll just do this really big, vague campaign to try and get as many people on board as we can and hope we win. And of course, unfortunately, they did win. And then they now actually have to deliver on Brexit, which basically mean these radicals have taken up, just as all radicals do normally during most sort of revolutions, and they have pushed us towards the hardest form of Brexit that no one wanted, that is causing all these problems. And now we've got the Windsor Framework in place in Northern Ireland, which, again, is meant to be a solution, but this can potentially create a whole new swathe of problems. So while the Windsor Protocol or the Windsor Framework, whatever you want to call it, but it's the Windsor Framework, does solve some, and I say some problems, doesn't solve them all. Does not solve them all, let alone the fact that you are unfortunately seeing, because of Brexit, increased tensions over there, which we've talked about before. I worry, certainly, about that massively. Not a lot of people, unfortunately, in the government seem to care, which is a real shame, because historically, as we've seen before in the past, trouble that ends up starting in Northern Ireland does not stay in Northern Ireland. Could very quickly find itself, that trouble spilling over into the streets of the UK, which we have seen before. Yeah, I'm worried. Very worried. But we're not talking about that today. Today, we're talking about medicines. Yes, medicines. Everyone at some point in their life will have to take medicines. But here's the thing. We've been talking about recently about how when we left the EU, we were part of these whole sort of big sort of regulatory bodies that all the European countries and others all paid into, which was far, far cheaper than us just having a similar body itself. Well, of course, what happens after Brexit? The UK government has had to recreate these bodies. And of course, these bodies, because the Conservatives hate regulation, or at least the Brexiteers really hate regulation, and the free market fundamentalists hate regulation, they have not only chronically understaffed these organizations, but they have also underfunded these organizations. This is why you are seeing so much sewage along the beach and rivers in the UK. And unfortunately, this extends to a whole series of industries and a whole series of problems. And now this is ultimately potentially going to affect your medicine. Maybe not at the moment because you don't take medicine, but maybe in the future you might. And oh boy, is this going to cause some serious problems. So before we go having a look at what the British Medical Journal has to say about the problems created by the Windsor Framework, and of course the lack of an actual funded and fully staffed regulatory body, please do remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a donation called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, Thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So, on we go with this. This came from the British Medical Journal discussing what the problems would be, and or at least some of the solutions that the Northern Ireland Protocol had. But of course, as you say at the top, it sees creating new problems. So, see what they have to say. The shift to the UK medicine authorizations means the prohibition on placing new medicines within the UK, within the EU authorization on the Northern Irish market. Health and social care services do not get to just pick and choose. This may mean that Northern Ireland gets later access to cutting-edge products that people over the border, And recently, the European Medical Agency has been centrally approving new products faster than its UK equivalent. And this is what, again, they set up after Brexit, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. This may be because the latter is understaffed or underfunded. Now that it no longer has access to the paid work from the European medical agencies, it is a regular industry complaint. So we have the UK equivalent to the EU one, and basically the UK one is understaffed, underfunded, and is not approving new medicines as fast as its European equivalent, meaning that people are not gaining access to the new cutting edge products that they may need. And this will have a big knock-on effect to people's health, and who knows? There could be a new drug that comes on the market for like people suffering from this. And it could be absolutely amazing. But guess what? The UK regulatory body hasn't approved it because it's just understaffed and underfunded. We will see that. I guarantee you. Put in another call for a future date. We will see a story sooner or later about someone who desperately needs one of these new medicines and can't get a hold of it. But if we're in the EU and we hadn't Brexited, or they'd be fine. They would be able to get it. But because they're in the UK and the UK body is understaffed and underfunded, they can't get it because they haven't got around yet to actually approving it. But it gets potentially even worse. So the transitional rules will apply to medicines already on the market, which can be sold in Northern Ireland until their expiry date. But this does not apply to authorizations that took place after the UK left the single market on the 30th of December 2020. So the MHAR will need to catch up to the European Medical Association on approvals to avoid the risk of available medicines being cut off. While in theory, it already has a policy of generally accepting EU approvals, its capacity problems may make it difficult to actually achieve. Moreover, new labelling rules will also apply regarding manufacturers in Northern Ireland to have a label that includes the words UK only, which will add but a small but real cost. So, again, medicines is going to go up in price, which again, it's just more and more cost. And we always said there would always be a hidden cost to Brexit, and this is just one of them, one of the many hidden costs that Brexiteers said, oh no, Brexit's not going to cost the UK anything. So Northern Ireland now has the very complex status where EU medicines laws apply, but with huge exemptions and another jurisdiction, the UK, taking over the central role of authorization. This does carry some risks. For example, what if in the future the UK were to stop conducting batch testing to the standards still required for Northern Ireland under EU law? Would there then be a confusing dual systems, or might the EU actually explore other options to suspend bits of the agreement? And it's not just things like medicines this apply. This confusing status applies to a swathe of products. Like, what if like as the Brexiteers claim, oh yeah, we want to diverge. Okay, what exactly do you want to diverge on? What is this divergence you want to do? There's a whole swathe of problems that, while the Windsor Framework is meant to solve all the current problems, it does not seem to take into regard that the Tory government has said multiple times, we want to diverge, we want to do this. Like I say, there is a massive load of trouble coming down the road. The second the Tories even try to go on their deregulatory dreams, and oh, trust me, sooner or later they will get their opportunity, because Liz Truss was absolutely going to go for it, just as Jacob Rees-Mogg was going to go for it. I mean, it would be funny if Liz Truss was still in charge, and this massive Lord's rebellion that we've seen that seems to have put to bed, at least potentially for the time being, Jacob Rees-Mogg's EU's retained law bill. How would Liz Truss be handling the Lords? That would be very interesting to see. But hey, we'll never know. And like I say, you thank God she only lasted as long as she did. Like I say, if the Queen hadn't died, she'd have gone a whole lot sooner. But anyway, yeah. So potential more trouble on the horizon. Certainly, that is for sure, and an absolute guarantee. Once again, Brexit was never a solution to any of the UK's problems. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.